Everybody, and this is the GM show presented on the E2G Sports Network. I am your host, MJ, and my co-host Galen is out of town today. So I decided to bring the founder, the legend of E2G Sports, Buddy Andrade, in to help me out tonight. How you doing, buddy? I'm good. I'm good. I don't know if anyone can see Buddy. I can't see Buddy, so we're kind of implying. I'm kind of. You're gonna just be seeing my mug if that's all you see. Um, So, with a lot going on in the sports world these days, obviously we're 8 days away from the draft, something that's really near and dear to most of our hearts. But we want to start with obviously in Boston right now. Um, the Boston Celtics started their playoff series against the Brooklyn Nets on Sunday, on Easter Sunday, and it was a doozy. Um, it it was one of the most entertaining playoff atmospheres, victories I've seen in a long time, and it just shows to it just goes to show that Boston, when playoff time, when there's playoff basketball, playoff hockey, playoff baseball, we're probably one of the most intense, most feared places to play in, just because of that atmosphere. And this was a game that was a much-watched game. Obviously, we all know what happened at the end with the game-winning buzzer beater, literally a buzzer beater by Jason Tatum with that layup. But there was a lot in that game that you saw. You saw obviously old friend, old foe, Kyrie Irving go off for 39 points. He's not well, at the time I loved it. I loved that he was here in the first. But right now he's obviously our foe. He's a jerk. He just can't take. He can't take the trash. He can dish it out, but he can't take it. He goes off. It wasn't Marcus Smart's best defensive game, which is the irony is a day later he gets named Defensive Player of the Year. But obviously that's for his season in general. But Jason Tatum, 31 points. I That last minute and 30 seconds was one of the. I just watched it again this morning. It was one of the most intense minute and a half I've ever seen. It actually was the quickest minute and a half I've ever seen in an NBA playoff game. It showed it just there wasn't no stoppage of play. There was no fouls. There was no timeouts. That many timeouts. That last possession for the Celtics, Ime Udoka, a lot of people say should have called a timeout to kind of get their placement there, but they decided to just go run the fast break. And the ball handling on that drive, on that sequence to actually get that pass from Marcus to Jason, that was probably one of the smoothest you know offensive plays, offensive possessions I've seen in a very long time. And it goes to show that this Celtics team is not like the Celtics teams of the past. This Celtics team has grit. This Celtics team has passion. They're still young, obviously, but they've grown to become one of the top. They're starting to ascend after all those years of so close but couldn't quite get there, and some of the immaturities that Tatum and Brown and maybe Smart what may have had. This game kind of proved that maybe they just might have a fighting chance to kind of get over that hump this year. Not maybe make a significant impact, but maybe actually have a chance to actually make a legitimate run for a championship this postseason. What are your thoughts, buddy? Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Even the possession that made him go up, that three he shot to make him go up 114 on 111. He actually that kind of gave me flashbacks of that 2016 NBA Finals. Just different side of the court. Um, because he came up clutch with that, and you thought that was going to be the dagger, but their defense was just too wide. They weren't really pressing. They just kind of let Jaylen Brown drive in, easy drive in the middle to get that layup, just to put him up, by one, put him down by one, and then obviously that sequence you said by Durant. Um, that kind of set up the golden play, but obviously we already kind of stated, but you think that a lot of people came in going into the series thought that maybe the Brooklyn Nets were gonna kind of walk all over them. Local guy here, Adam Jones, is a big supporter of the Brooklyn Nets. He was, he thinks they're just still going to destroy the Celtics. But you think this game, even though as close as it was, does it give? Should Celtics fans be more concerned because of how Kyrie played and how we kind of squeak one out, or should we um, enthused, or looking for, encouraged? Excuse me, that's the word I was looking for. By what the Celtics were able to pull off, and you think that this can happen for at least 3 more games? Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. That and Ben Simmons. I mean, obviously we don't know what Ben Simmons is because we haven't seen him play. It feels like in 10 years, but it seems as though that him and Robert Williams are making some progress on potentially making an appearance in this series, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see if both of those guys come back. If Robert Williams his injury is kind of not fully healed, but can he be a contributor for the Celtics team? And if Ben Simmons does come back, you know, what is he going to look like? Will he be, serviceable for the Brooklyn Nets? So it's going to be interesting. For Ben, or that's for Ben, right? For Ben Simmons, yeah, that's right. That's what I heard. I know that even that there's a lot of people in the Celtics organization that that are reporting that Robert Williams has been cleared to kind of practice, or kind of clear to participate in practice at least. So we'll see if I wouldn't want to rush him back just because you don't want to lose the potential of him actually being a bigger impact down the stretch. If they don't need him in this series, might as well save him. Al Horford looked really good on Sunday, so you can kind of go with that in the meantime. But going to the nemesis, Kyrie Irving. This has been obviously an ongoing thing ever since he left. Ever since he said he wanted to come back, and then he was seen at the All-Star game with Kevin Durant saying 2 max slots. He was going to be, we need to read. It was just kind of him, talking about the All-Star game, and then eventually they both of their teams and signed with Brooklyn. But Kyrie Irving again on Sunday, we knew he was going to receive the booze. We knew he was going to, not he wasn't gonna receive the love. And I don't know if Kyrie, if that's what he wants, because it seems as though when there's a video out there, the minute he walked out of the court, before anyone really had a chance to say anything to him, he already had his middle fingers out, already middle finger in to the crowd, like if he was just that was his plan going in. And I just find that very, very strange. I mean, not strange, but I just found it. And then you see the video of him jawing at the fans, doing the crybaby face, and then obviously at the end, at the press conference, he essentially, you know, cursed a lot and just basically said, if they're gonna give it to me, I'm gonna give it to them back, give it to them back," which I like. I don't mind that. That's what you would think of a competitor to want to do. But do you think that we're in his heads, or is he in our heads? Are we making this more of of a thing than it really should be, or is it really Kyrie? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. And it's kind of he has that kind of know-it-all kind of mentality where we're kind of beneath him, the fans, and obviously, and also the media. Where obviously he had the issue with the COVID vaccination, how he didn't want it. He wasn't going to get it because he wanted to, stand up for the people who refuse to get it. Which I'm just like, we don't. They don't need you. The people that didn't get the vaccination, they don't need you, it's Kyrie. So don't use that as an excuse. Like, think of something else because I don't think that's the real reason. Whether it's his beliefs or, I mean, I don't. I'm not trying to say Kyrie should have got the vaccine. That's his own personal choice. But it's just the way he carries himself. It's kind of that Aaron Rodgers esque kind of like Trevor Bauer. Yeah, Trevor Bauer, Kyrie Irving. I would put Aaron Rodgers on there, even though he doesn't annoy me as much. I don't know why he doesn't annoy me, but he has yeah, he's small market, Green Bay. He's great talent, but it's just those guys just think they're given a platform and they kind of use it very they're very smug about it. They think that they're kings of the world, and they can treat anyone the way that the way that they choose. And this goes back to Kyrie. We'll see how he reacts tonight. Let's see if I'm sure the booze with Boston is still going to be there because they know that they want to get another rise out of him. But we don't. But from my perspective, are the boos igniting him? Are you kind of poking a sleeping bear, or is it kind of hurting him in the moments that matter the most at the end of the game? It showed on Sunday. He still performed Sunday, but we obviously had the last laugh, and we're gonna have to do the same thing tonight. We can't. Kevin Durant had a subpar game. He had 23 points on Sunday, and it's not. You can't expect that again from Kevin Durant. You're gonna expect him to score as well as Kyrie, and you're gonna have to kind of keep up with that with the likes of Tatum, Brown, and Smart, playing defensive player of the year defense. So, um, yeah. So, um, yeah, we actually went through that conversation super quick, buddy. um, nail all our points. Yeah. Usually it's kind of like I'll do like 8 minutes and it'll be like 8:20, like 7:20. Well, I'll go on to my next topic. But since we're already here, you're listening to the GM show with MJ. Tonight is Buddy on the E2G Sports Network. If you guys have any questions, you can listen to us via StreamYard, our YouTube channel, Twitter. You can see it on Buddy's and my Facebook E2G Facebook page. And if you want to give us a comment, if you want to say MJ, you suck, or Buddy, you're great, leave us a comment. And if you have any questions or concerns of that you want to see what we have, what our thoughts are on it, on the situation, just leave us a comment and we'll get to it. So we're gonna keep moving on, but we're gonna stay with the NBA playoffs. Most of the games are already in either game 3 or game 2. Obviously, game 2 for the Celtics is tonight at 7 o'clock. That's why we're doing the show at 6, because we want to lead into Celtics. We don't want to compete with the Celtics because we will lose. We would lose. We would lose. So a lot of games have already been played. A lot of 2-0, a lot of 2-0 leads for some teams, the 76ers, the Warriors. The Pelicans were able to get a win against the number one, the best team in the West, or some might say the league this year, against the Suns to tie it up 1-1 after the Devin Booker injury. He may be out in games 3 and 4. But my question to you is, buddy, when you're looking at, if you've watched some of these games, or you just even see replays of a lot of these games, what are your takeaways thus far from what you've seen in this? Who belongs in here and has a legitimate chance to be, to be an NBA Finals champion, and who is really kind of just lucky to be there, and they kind of were, within the next week they'll be gone. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And Utah is one of those teams. Obviously, the series is tied, but it's one of those teams that kind of they have all the makings of being one of the top teams in the West, but they just kind of get in their own way. And I don't know if it's the animosity between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, which I think that's going to make headways in the offseason. I think one of those two are most likely. I think it's going to be Gobert, but they have to separate because it seems as though they have ever since the COVID-19 with Rudy Gobert. It seems as though Donovan Mitchell kind of and him just don't mesh, and they gotta part ways with one. If it was me, I'd go Rudy Gobert. But for me, when I'm watching the NBA playoffs, the Suns without Devin Booker, that's going to be a huge hit because I think he's the heart and soul of the team. Yes, a lot of people say Chris Paul, but he's the guy. He's the kind of young up and coming superstar that makes all those that's that kind of that I don't want to say Kobe Bryant, but he's the leader for the most part on that team. And Chris Paul obviously is still a great talent for them, but I think the Suns will only go as far as Devin Booker goes. The Timberwolves and the Grizzlies series, I agree, has the most fun because they have the most personalities. Obviously, you mentioned John Morant and Karl Anthony Towns' dads trash talking each other during a sideline interview during last night's game, and John Morant has the superstar mentality. He's quickly rising as to a top 10 NBA superstar in this league. And then you got Anthony Edwards on the other side, who has that swag, who has that. Sometimes it can be kind of cocky, but it's entertaining. So, and they came to play. They came to play too. A lot of people may have said, "All right, Timberwolves are kind of just going to be in there just to have someone play the Grizzlies, and then they'll be gone." But it seems as though the Timberwolves are giving them Memphis a fight, and they're looking like they do potentially have a chance to steal this series if everything if they can keep that up. Um, and the Warriors, I agree with you with the Warriors. Now that Steph Curry, he's not he's I don't know if he's fully back, but he had a great game too. And I just think you said they look like old school. Golden State, they do. They look like that team that dominated the NBA from 2015 to 2019. And it looks as though as long as Steph Curry can stay healthy and Klay Thompson can kind of elevate his game, we could be seeing another Warriors in the NBA Finals, which a lot of people may hate. Like I don't hate the Warriors like I hated the Lakers, or I was bored by the Spurs when they just kept going and going and going. The Warriors are entertaining. Curry and Klay Thompson, as long as Klay is back as well, they're just fun to watch. And yeah, I think the 76ers Raptors series, I think that's as much as I don't like to say the 76ers can actually, you know, I always kind of brace for 76ers collapse because just that's what they do. I mean, as much as I love Doc Rivers, he gave us some great years here. Um, his teams with LA, the Clippers, were never they never really got anywhere. And then the teams with the 76ers is still early, but Embiid and Harden, great talents, but do any of them have that championship pedigree that if you look at all the teams that have won NBA championships in recent years, they at least have one or two guys that you can look at and say, okay, those guys had that Mamba mentality, so to speak. That kind of they can rip your heart out without even and then just walk away. Those are the guys you want. Those are the guys you want. And I don't know if Embiid has that, and I don't think Harden at all has that. I think Harden is kind of that Russell Westbrook, where he can put up all these numbers, but you can still lose games. And that's what happened with the Lakers with Russell Westbrook. And Harden is he's not this. It doesn't look like the same Harden as well, like the MVP Harden that was with the Rockets for all those years. Um, so I mean, they're up 2-0. They have they're in the driver's seat to kind of take advantage of this series and go up 3-0 tonight. But I wouldn't hold my breath. I wouldn't hold my breath. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. But they're in prime position. So, but it's going to be exciting. I'm excited to watch this game tonight. If the Celtics can go up 2-0, that's going to be a huge benefit going to Brooklyn on Saturday night, and kind of taking advantage of over a good team, and obviously in a bad situation because they have all the makings of being a 1 or 2 seed. And this the way everything panned out this year with the Harden thing early and Durant, Irving, the vaccination with Kyrie and Durant's injury, they kind of had to play in the playing game in order to get to this point, and they don't have home court advantage. So, if any year is our year as far as Celtics fans go, I think this is the year that you're primed to kind of take that next step and solidify the Celtics, legacy even more, and Tatum and Brown's legacy in the NBA. So, but now I wanted to switch over to the NFL, which is obviously it's the sport that rules all. We never don't talk with the NFL. The NFL is everything is NFL every day. So but there's been a lot of speculation recently as the draft gets near, and obviously we've seen one of the craziest off seasons I've seen in my in quite a while. We've seen a lot of trade movement, a lot of free agency movement. Players changing new teams. Devontae Adams, Oakland, Tyreek Hill, Miami. Obviously Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan changing teams. But there's been a lot of speculation as of since all these voluntary workouts have started to come. Is 3 of the stacked 2019 wide receiver class. They're coming up. This is their last final year because a lot of them were second round picks. So they don't have that 5th-year option. So a lot of them are due to become unrestricted free agents this coming year. And they're seeing the wide receiver movement. They're seeing guys like Christian Kirk get money that maybe he doesn't necessarily deserve, but that's the market. They set the market, and that's what he got. So he was in a prime position to get paid. But guys like Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, which we'll get into a little bit about that because that took a bit of a turn today, and AJ Brown, they've all has stated they're not going to be participating in these workouts because they're looking for new deals, new long-term deals. They want to get paid like Tyreek, Devontae, Allen Robinson, like I said, Christian Kirk, and AJ Brown went as far as to remove, and Deebo Samuel went as far as to remove everything related to their teams. As I recall, AJ Brown had a Tennessee tag on his Twitter account, and then next thing you know, he doesn't have that anymore. So I know a lot of these players have done this. Kyler Murray was one of the first ones this offseason to do it with the Arizona Cardinals. So they do it, and it's kind of maybe, I don't know if it's a ploy. It's probably it's a strategy. Maybe their agent tells them to do. I don't know how that helps at all, but it is what it is. But they're looking for new deals. And Debo Samuel today, it was a report by Jeff Darlington that came out that he spoke to Debo Samuel, and he did indeed say that Debo did request a trade to the 49ers. And a lot of reports are saying due to the way he's being used. And a lot of us kind of, were enamored by how he played last year with being a running back and wide receiver. The amount his statistics were just out of this world, and being being out of the backfield and as a wide receiver. And he doesn't like the way he's being used. He wants to be strictly a wide receiver, which I guess it's fine, because if the 49ers see that and they use him as a running back wide receiver, then they can kind of use that as give him running back money instead of wide receiver money. So he probably just wants that tag. So when they're looking at him, he wants to be able to demand Devontae, Tyreek Hill money. But he demanded a trade, and his brother doubled down on, I think it was a Facebook comment, saying that yes, he did request a trade, and he wants out of San Francisco. But excuse me. When you look at these three guys, obviously they're all world talents. The 2019 wide receiver class, and DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf's one guy that hasn't really. He's kind of just going with the flow, it looks like. I mean, his name has been floated out in trade rumors, but he's not included when it's coming to these reports, as far as, holding out, demanding this and that. He has all the right to do so, because he is one of those all-world talents that came out of 2019. But out of these three guys, do you think obviously we see holdouts happen every year, so it's not anything new to us, but do you think any of these guys have a chance to actually get dealt? And if one gets dealt, like what are two or three teams that you think are primed to kind of they make a move for any of these three guys, or even DK Metcalf for that matter? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I saw he posted a video about that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Curtis Samuel. Yeah. That was I remember that one. Yeah. I love Curtis. Okay, yeah, and then he'll be on that bargain basket, and Bill loves that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think I agree. I think that you hear Terry McLaurin skipping OTAs, which is nothing new. These are not mandatory. When it becomes mandatory, then that's when that's a story. But so now it's not really contact. It's just kind of conditioning and things of that nature. But I think that Debo, obviously, I'm glad you brought up that report, because I remember that report coming out last week where he was saying he was receiving death threats, receiving racial slurs towards him. And I just think, obviously, that is, as fans in general, not just the 49ers, it's like, is that necessary? Like, why, and we live in Massachusetts, and we've heard our fair share of criticisms on how we handle certain athletes here. And even then, I'd say that's unacceptable. That's not Like, there's no need for that. Yeah, boo them, trash talk them, do it in as polite of a manner as you could. But when you're kind of taking it to the next step, threatening guys, threatening, their families at some points, or threatening, calling them, racial slurs, it's kind of like, where is your head at? Like, are you even all there? Because how do you treat another human being that way? Especially they're doing this obviously most likely via Twitter, Instagram. They're sending those messages. Yeah, they're never going to say this to the face because they just, yeah, Twitter tough. Yeah. Like, you're just kind of like, yeah, yeah. They're like these bots. I don't know who they are. They're just living, in their mother's basement, or kind of, they're mhm. Yeah, and it reminds me of, I don't know if you remember, in 2000, it was 2012, but it was 2011 NFC Championship game. Yeah, Kyle Williams fumbled and he got death threats, and he was, he was scared for his life. I remember that, and I'm thinking that was also the 49ers, and we don't really, I think this kind of is San Francisco fans in general, because we all know the Giants-Dodgers rivalry and how that can get heated between the two teams. So I don't know if maybe San Francisco, there's just, everyone gives flack to the Philadelphia fans and to our fans. Maybe we should start looking at how San Francisco fans treat some of, opposing players, and they're even their own players in this case. But yeah, I think that Debo, obviously I think he has the leverage because of why he's asking for a trade. And I think that if the 49ers want to do him a solid, I mean, it's going to suck for their offense in general and for their team. But if this is a situation, you got to let them, you know, see what else is out there and get to a situation that he thinks is going to be better for him and his family. And the Terry McLaurin, like you said, Terry McLaurin, I think that's all the Commanders have at this point. So I don't know, and he doesn't really seem, from the things I've read and have seen and watched the guy, as far as the way he carries himself, I don't really see him as a guy who's going to do that. AJ Brown is kind of, I think they'll eventually pay him, because obviously they also don't have anything. They just brought in an injured Robert Woods, who tore his ACL last year. So that's you kind of have to take that into consideration. And so you're going to have to pay the man. I think they're going to have to pay AJ Brown. And Terry McLaurin gets paid, because the Commanders, what else do they have after that? I mean, they just brought in Carson Wentz. That's not great either. So you gotta have to have something to showcase. And they're gonna, Logan. I always forget about Logan Thomas. I think Adam Humphries is not there, but I think he's a free agent. But you got Antonio Gibson, and then I think they're better suited to kind of, stick it with Terry McLaurin. And the whole DK Metcalf thing, who knows? I think if the Seahawks are smart, they kind of keep those guys around, because they don't know what they're doing at quarterback at this point as well. But as far as when I think about teams that could actually potentially make a play for Debo, you always look at draft capital, and we've been kind of looking at the draft and kind of looking at what teams can do, what teams can move. It's scary to say, but I think the New York Jets are a good spot for them. They have the draft capital. They can give them a guy. They can give them a receiver as well. They have Corey Davis on there, which if they needed something extra for the 49ers to kind of say, all right, well, at least we can get something back, something that's proven. You can give them Corey Davis and a few picks, and that can be, that could be a good play. The Packers, everyone always says, is the number one place that he should go, but I just don't see it. They haven't really made it. Never. This is Debo, from the reports I'm reading, is the 49ers are going to look for a Tyreek Hill type of haul, and I don't think the Packers are kind of like the Patriots in that regard, where they like the player. I'm sure everyone loves the player. They'd give up the player for like a pick or two. But the haul that Tyreek Hill brought in for Kansas City from Miami is not something that got teams like the Steelers, Packers, and Patriots will ever do. Plus, you have to pay him the $25+ million annually, which is something that the Green Bay Packers wouldn't do with Devontae Adams. So I don't know why they would want to do it with Deebo Samuel at this point. So from my perspective, I could be wrong. I'm old, I've been wrong before. I'm going to be wrong again. So I could definitely be wrong in that regard. So, but at least, hey, I wonder if N'Keal Harry's in this conversation as well. Do you think so? He's a 2019 wide receiver that was drafted. He's on the block. I'm just saying, yeah. But you think we can get a haul like that for N'Keal? Yeah. Maybe like some gift cards. Maybe a couple like gift cards, like a Dunkin' gift card. Yeah, no, or there, Dunkin' Donuts, or maybe those Visa Mastercards that you can use anywhere. Those things. Those are good for gas. Good for. So yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, so we can get something. That's good value right there. That's when Bill says value. That's what I think. All right, so you're listening to the GM show on the Ear to the Ground Sports Network. I am your host again, Buddy, with alongside the E2G founder, the legend, Buddy Andrade, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, make sure to comment, and we'll try to get to your comments and see what you want asked or have a comment on. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna stay in the NFL, like I said, because NFL is king, and getting into the wheelhouse. You and I do a draft preview show, the day 3 draft show on Mondays. I'm sorry, I'm already drawing a blank. When we had this past Monday, we obviously had you, myself, Dante, and Mike, and we discussed a lot. We discussed obviously what's a lot of where players are going to drop to. We discussed a lot of the Kayvon Thibodeau situations there. But what I had a question for you today, buddy, is there something that when you're looking at draft coverage, or you're just reading up on certain players or certain teams, that what may happen, what may not happen? Is there something that you're seeing that a lot of people aren't talking about, as far as a team moving up, a team potentially moving down, or a team for a player that a player that may not be a team that may not, because we see it every year. We see a team that pops out of nowhere to acquire this certain player. Is there something that you're seeing out there? Is there a scenario that you could see and say that could kind of shock the draft world on let's say day one? That's usually when that happens. Mm-hmm. 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 You. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, we've been talking, last couple of weeks on the show, that obviously Malik Willis, who is it going to be? Is it going to be Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett? None of them really wows us. None of it we all think. Like I said on Monday, I think Kenny Pickett is a an Andy Dalton type. Well, he'll maybe be serviceable and kind of he'll make some plays. He'll have some solid years, but is he a Pro Bowler? Is he gonna kind of carry a team? No, it's a game manager. Like Alex Smith was game manager. And Alex Smith was a really good quarterback, but would you draft him in first overall again? No, you probably draft him, second or earliest third round. So I don't. It's just how the NFL has actually progressed, or somebody say degressed the last few years as far as quarterbacks are at a premium right now. We've seen it ever since the 2017 draft class with Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes. Teams see that and they get green with envy. They just want to have that. So they may look at a guy who has maybe is the best quarterback in this draft and say, okay, well, I'm gonna overdraft him because I want to have that same thing with have that control, have that young quarterback, have that flashy guy, and then have him under control for 5 years under good money, and be able to chase that championship just like the Chiefs were able to chase that championship with a quarterback that was on a rookie deal and get to that point. So I think I like what you said about the Detroit Lions, and I think they have those two picks. They have that second pick that they can use on. I think they're gonna. I'm starting to talk myself into Trayvon Walker at that pick, but I think Kayvon Thibodeau just has all the. He's the best pass rusher in the draft. I feel, and he's also that has the best physical traits. But obviously, we already heard that Dan Campbell doesn't like his personality or whatever. Didn't really wow in his meetings at the combine, or so. That may not be an option. So look at Trayvon Walker for them if that's their route they want to go. And then with that last pick, either they can move it, or you can get, if there's a quarterback like a Desmond Ridder. If he doesn't, it looks to be like he's rising, but if he's somehow drops to that. Yeah. So if a quarterback, for whatever reason, a quarterback drops, I don't want to say take a flyer on the 32nd pick, 'cause it's still first round, but you have that ammo to kind of say, okay, well, let me take this quarterback. That way I have at least 4 years of control. And then you may have the potential for the fifth year option, just like the Vikings had done with Teddy Bridgewater trading back into that round. And then yeah. And then Lamar Jackson. Yeah. So it's just I just think it's smart business. It's a smart business model, and a lot of people don't talk about the Detroit Lions right now. They may not be. They have a lot of individual pieces. Obviously, they have Penei Sewell, they have DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, T.J. Hawkinson. They have all the makings that they can kind of. And obviously, I think Dan Campbell can be a lot to take, and at times his personality can be a little bit too much. But for now, just like Rex Ryan was too much in the beginning in the Jets. I mean, in the beginning with the Jets, but he actually got his team to perform, and they went to back-to-back AFC Championship games. So it looks to me that the Lions, after that atrocious Matt Patricia, tenure there, they have players that bought into this Dan Campbell. Leadership so thus far. We'll see where it goes after that. If that can only last you so much. But I think that they have a lot of makings. If they can get a quarterback, obviously Jared Goff isn't the answer. Early on with the Rams, he had that great 2018 year. They had a great offense. They had a lot of skilled players around him, and then he just tailed off. So Jared Goff isn't the guy. He's a good stopgap. Like, I won't knock that. Just like Marcus Mariota is a fine stopgap in Atlanta. They're not expected to go anywhere, but when you're in a position like the Detroit Lions, I like where the Lions are. And going back to your Green Bay Packers, I love that scenario for Green Bay to go back to back wide receivers at that position, because at this point you have Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, and you just signed Sammy Watkins, and who knows what Sammy Watkins is anymore. And they have Amar, captain and active. I like that. That's him. I I forgot he was even on the Chiefs championship team. Even forgot. Yeah, so did he. He probably, and I remember he says he wants to help build this team into winning dynasty, getting it into a dynasty. I'm like, who are you again? Like, probably Mahomes is probably like, he's probably like introducing himself. It's like, I'm Patrick. Who are you? Like, Sammy? Yeah, seriously. But yeah, so he's there, and seems as though Aaron Rodgers is he's going along with it, and it's weird because his whole issue was he wanted players. You remember his huge press conference last summer when he showed up to training camp that they weren't showing the players respect. They weren't signing this guy, this guy. He named a bunch of guys, and they went to go get his old buddy Randall Cobb, and then they just Devontae Adams they let go. So I think that getting guys like Chris Olave, where they're picking Treylon Burks, um, Jameson Williams, if he's still there, would be a great pick, especially if you double dip at the receiver position, because you kind of buy yourself a little bit of time that you at least have one that you can kind of integrate into the offense, and then have the other one kind of ease his way as the season goes along. Even though Jameson Williams is stating he'll be ready by training camp, but you don't want to rush, especially 20 sales. You don't want to rush, especially with a young guy. You don't want to have his career start off on a bad note. So you definitely want to get the most out of that. Um, so we already caught up. But what else can we talk? Sorry, buddy. I thought I put a lot in there, and I thought we were gonna get it. I thought we were gonna like usually take our time, but 13 minutes left. So you know what we'll do? We'll jump into baseball. How about that, buddy? Yeah, yeah. You've seen a baseball game? They usually they have a glove. Yeah, yeah. What are your thoughts on the Red Sox this year? Just in general. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's yeah. And that's basically how Heimblum plays it. That's what he did. And there's never really titles for anybody on these teams anymore. It's kind of like I want to say positionless baseball, but it's kind of the more you can do anywhere you can do it. Like it just it's the days of well, Pavel Bond's our closer. That's it. He's gonna be the closer, and Keith Folks our closer. Those are no longer. I mean, Matt Barnes I thought would have been the closer, but his velocity is down. It seems as though they're kind of going by committee now. They're doing different things. They're not obviously this is the way baseball and baseball analytics and the way everything is kind of turning towards, and they're not leaving pitchers out past the fifth inning for the most part. You saw Clayton Kershaw have a no hitter the other night, and going into the seventh, and then they took him out because for whatever the baseball nerds up front up in the box saw, they said, all right, this is a time to pull him. Which back in the day there'd be anarchy in the streets because that's not how if a guy's throwing a perfect game, you have let it throw it. But yeah, as far as the Red Sox, I think they're high and they're low. They're kind of their offense hasn't really fired up, and a guy like Trevor Story hasn't done anything thus far on the team. But but I but I think they'll be fine. It's just the pitching needs to kind of hopefully we can get Chris Sale and Nathan Eovaldi can come back to form, And, at least with those two guys, then we can kind of see where it's going. It looks like the Blue Jays are here to stay. The Yankees may be coming up, even though Garrett Cole looks awful and looks like the worst money ever spent for the Yankees. And, I try when, I watch baseball, but this early on, I tried to kind of temper my emotions when I see something. When I was a kid, I'd be, oh my gosh, we just beat the Yankees in April 15th. Like, and I'd go crazy and excited, like, this is it. I'm like, no. But 7 minutes to tip. Yeah, we should definitely do that. Well, thank you, buddy. And so you're going to be gone for our draft show next week. And yeah, we'll dedicate the show in your honor. And yeah, and we'll be talking. I'll be talking to you soon. I want to get some things going with this show and everything else at E2G. So I'm really glad give me the opportunity to be a part of E2G, buddy. So just want to thank you. And but I appreciate it, buddy. I appreciate it. Well, thanks to everyone that watched. I'll be back Galen should be back by next Wednesday, and we'll definitely be previewing everything with the NBA, previewing the draft that will be happening the next day. And yeah, no problem. And I'll see you Monday on the Day 3 draft show. And have a good night. Enjoy the NBA playoffs. Enjoy, if you're a Boston Celtics fan, enjoy the Celtics tonight. Let's hope for a Game 2 win. And thank you for listening on the Ear to Ground Sports Network. I am MJ. He is Buddy. And have a great week.